for everybody. We have equal health care for everybody. And I know that it's going to be a long fight and it might persist far beyond my time. I hope not. But I am in this fight and I just want to challenge you all to continue to do so. And I just want to leave you with this. Healthcare is a human right. Right. And so we need to continue to use our voices as individuals in this wonderful country to make a difference, because I know that we can get to the mountaintop, but the only way we can do that is if we continue to fight. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Give another hand to Dr. Isaiah. Thank you, man. Before I bring up the next speaker, I do want to give a shout out. We are in the local hall of IBEW, and just want to thank IBEW for having us. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for letting us in your space. And next up, we've been talking about this federal shutdown, how it drastically impacts our federal workers. We are in an administration right now that has said themselves that part of what they want to do is traumatize our civil servants. Traumatize people who work in the federal government. Not my words. It's their words. It's the words of Russell Vought. And this is what this administration wants to do. And so, like Representative Escamani said, we have to wrap our arms around our federal workers and support them in these times. And people should keep an eye out. We're going to be releasing some events over the coming weeks to help support our federal workers here in Florida's 10th Congressional District and in Orange County. But without further ado, give it up for my friend Tatiana from AFGE Local 556.
You know, when I walked into work this week, I saw the same thing I saw back in 2019. Federal workers doing their job with pride while quietly wondering how they'll pay their bills. That memory never leaves you. My name is Tatiana Finley, and I'm here today, not as a spokesperson for an agency, but as a union representative for the men and women. Coverage and hospitals struggling to stay open. These aren't political issues, they're human ones. Without a stable budget, millions of Americans are left wondering how they'll keep their families covered and whether they can afford the care they need. A budget isn't just a financial document, it's a statement of values. It tells workers, families, and communities whether they matter. Behind every number, every delay, there are real people. The mom standing at the checkpoint holding back tears, a veteran who continues to serve his country, even now, The family trying to explain to their kid why there are no paychecks coming. You can't shut down the government without shutting down livelihoods. You can't freeze paychecks without freezing hopes. But what I've learned over the years is that federal workers are strong. We stand shoulder to shoulder and lift each other up when no one else will. During the 2019 shutdown, I watched communities step in with food, gas cards, and compassion. Strangers become family. The same spirit is alive today. This time, we're not just enduring another shutdown, we're speaking out. We're saying enough. Enough. Enough of uncertainty, enough of being caught in the middle. We're asking for stability, for fairness, for government that works for the people who make it run. So tonight, I ask everyone here, if you care about this country, care about the people who serve it, if you care about safety, care about the workers who make it possible, and if you care about fairness, stand with us. Because this fight isn't about politics, isn't about people. It's about people. It's about whether Americans still values the people who keep it moving every single day. To my fellow officers and every federal worker out there, I see you. I know your struggle. I know your courage. I lived it. And I promise we will keep showing up. We will keep speaking out. We will keep fighting until this country remembers that a government that doesn't value its workers cannot truly serve its people. Thank you.
We fight. We fight. We win. And we have a few federal workers here. You can raise your hand if you're a federal worker. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Next up, I'm proud to introduce a veteran, someone who does amazing work on behalf of our veteran and service members. This is really important. Starting next week, our service members will not be receiving their pay. And Democrats in the House said, let's go back to DC on Monday and let's pass a standalone bill to make sure at least our troops can still get their paychecks. And Mike Johnson put out a memo saying no. He said, absolutely not. The House is not coming back at all. He is saying half of Congress is not going to go do its damn job. Coward. Coward. And so to speak on these impacts, please give it up for my friend, Mike Abrams.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Adams, Marine Corps veteran. I do serve on some committees here. Number 5. Scared me back there. I serve on a handful of committees here in Central Florida advocating for our veterans. So I want to speak to our veterans at this moment. We need to remind ourselves that every time we hear an official or someone running for office say we support veterans, it's time for us to make them prove it. Not with their words, with their budgets, with their policies, and with their priorities. Because right now, their priorities are backwards. They have forgotten about us. And I say we don't do it for the pay, but our family needs that money. We live in a country where billionaires can shape tax codes. Corporations can find loopholes big enough to fly their private jets through. I don't think anyone here has a private jet. Yet our veterans who serve this nation, who carry the weight of its wars, the scars of their service, have to fight for appointments, medications, basic care. That's not patriotism, that's misplaced loyalty. We need to remind ourselves that the true measure of a nation's strength is not found in stock markets or the size of our donors' portfolios. It's found in how we treat those who wore the uniform and those who risked everything and asked for nothing in return but a fair shot at life after their service. So when they talk about budgets, when they talk about spending, let's remember that every dollar they fail to invest in veterans' health care is a broken promise. It's time to stop treating billionaires' interests as sacred and start treating veterans' health, Americans' health, as a priority. Because if they can afford to protect wealth, they damn well can afford to protect those who protect us. Who educate our children, who put out our fires, who deliver our mail, who deliver our packages. These issues do not occur in a vacuum. Real people, our community will start feeling these effects immediately. And with that, I want to read a letter that was written by a local veteran that was sent to Congressman here. My name is Phil. I'm a veteran and a full-time student, and while I do receive a housing allowance per my GI Bill and work part-time making deliveries 30 hours a week, that money doesn't go as far as I need it to. On a good week, after all my bills are paid, I'll be lucky to have $300 left for groceries, gas, and other daily expenses. I only have that amount left over because of my ACA plan allows me to. If the tax credits expire, my premium would increase from $30 a month to $400 a month. I would effectively be going into overdraft at the beginning of every month with no hope of ever digging myself out of that hole. It seems like the Republican Party is determined to ensure people like me will never be able to get a leg up in this country, so long as our billionaire donors continue to siphon off every last penny from the middle and working classes. Needless to say, I'm scared. I write this as a statement of more as a desperate plea. I hate begging for anything, let alone begging for the chance at basic dignity. Phil is one of 600,000 veterans whose premiums will skyrocket, and that is a damn shame. Yeah. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
And with that, let's bring up Samuel Santiago.
At a rally held last night talking about healthcare and a number of different issues as well as the government shutdown continues. I will give you a live look inside the Orange County Sheriff's Office, where we expect an update any minute now from the sheriff talking about this child that died after being shot at a park in Orange County. Some sort of fight on the basketball court that ended in that shooting. Here's Sheriff Mina now. Let's listen in.
Shooting after school, and now 16-year-old Pignon Dalmacy is dead, and 15-year-old Jacory Redding made a choice that could change the rest of his life. It's unfortunate. Both of them were sophomores and had their entire lives ahead of them. So yesterday, about 2:45 p.m., our deputies responded to a shooting at Vote Maloon Park on West Oak Ridge Road near Oak Ridge High School. When our deputies arrived, they found Pignon, who had been shot twice. So there were a number of witnesses on scene who'd said that earlier in the day that Jacory had bumped into Pignon on school campus and had asked or told Pignon or told Jacory to apologize. He would not. The two agreed to meet after school off campus to fight at the park. So my heart goes out to Pignon's family, who is grieving the unimaginable loss of their 16-year-old. And, you know, I'm really angry that something as small as bumping into someone in the halls of a high school, something that we have all done, has now turned into a deadly shooting of a 16-year-old. This death could have been prevented, but a 15-year-old with a gun made the choice to change someone's life. So right after this shooting, Jacory ran back onto campus at Oak Ridge High School. Our school resource officer, Deputy Nelson Rodriguez, heard the shooting go out on the radio, immediately started coordinating with school administrators at Oak Ridge High School. The school was placed on lockdown, and as information was coming in about who was responsible for the shooting, Jacory Redding was located in the school cafeteria, and he was also in possession of the gun. So Jacory Redding, who's 15 years old, was arrested and charged with manslaughter with a firearm. He's also charged with possession of firearm on school property. So we know there are additional witnesses who saw this incident and the shooting, and we also believe there could be additional video that we would like to see. So if anyone has any additional information, and certainly if anyone has any video, please notify the Orange County Sheriff's Office. If you want to remain anonymous, you can call Crime Line at 800-423-TIPS. Again, no one's ever going to know who you are. You can call Crime Line at 800-423-TIPS. And for students and parents who are familiar with the Fortify Florida app, they can use that app to give us that information. So again, very tragic incident that has changed the lives ended one life and changed the life of two very young people forever. And so happy to take any questions at this time. Just know that we're very early on in the investigation.
And it might be too early for this, but do the two individuals here have more of a history dating back before yesterday?
So it's our initial indication that there was no ongoing history between the two of us, but between the two of them. But again, we're still investigating.
Could you confirm if the alleged shooter had the firearm on campus all day?
So we don't know that. So what we do know is that when he ran back on campus, there was a gun found in his backpack.
Do you know how he got that gun? Did it come from someone he knew?
So we do not know how he got the gun. We don't know where the gun came from. In these instances, in my experience, that the gun was purchased off the street or given to him by someone, but we don't have any information yet as to where the gun came from.
But as far as you know, Sheriff, it did not come from a family member?
We have no idea where the gun came from right now.
Does Ja'Cory have more of a history with your office, or is this the first?
Yeah, he is pending trial for grand theft auto, resisting without violence, and I believe a trespassing in a conveyance charge as well. So he was arrested for that, and the trial is pending on that charge.
When did that arrest happen?
I would have to get that to you. I don't have the exact date.
Sheriff, just literally a mile from the school is a program as part of the mayor's effort to fund mentoring programs to, put guns down, maybe put gloves up, martial arts, self-defense, things like that. Is this message getting through to people on campus?
So there are hundreds of mentoring programs throughout Central Florida, and I believe the majority of that is actually working, getting through. Unfortunately, those programs may not touch every single person, or certainly youth may not take advantage of those programs, and it may not translate to them, getting the help that they need or the mentoring they need. But certainly those programs are available. People know about them. They're advertised all the time.
When it comes to that area where the shooting happened, are y'all planning on having more security over there after the shooting?
So there is additional patrol in that area today, and just so as a reminder, in all of Orange County Public Schools, there is a school resource officer or deputy assigned to every single school from the first bell until the end of the day.
Two questions for me. First one, clarifying, the school resource officer heard on the radio who he should be looking for and identified the student on campus, found them in the cafeteria?
That's correct. Information was coming from witnesses about who was involved, about what they were wearing. He quickly worked with the assistant principal who identified what student was. They went to the cafeteria, located him there with a backpack with the firearm inside the backpack.
And how many students were still on campus or in the cafeteria at that time?
I don't have that information right now.
Could you spell everyone's name?
I will get that to you right afterwards.
Okay.
With the open carry laws and related incidents that we've seen in the schools, do you feel that you advocate for metal detectors in Orange County Public Schools?
So anything that would prevent firearms from being on schools, I'm in favor. I know Orange County Public Schools, they have canines that are trained to smell ammunition and use those quite frequently.
Have the parents of either said anything to you, the parents of the student who is now in custody said anything to you that stood out, or the parents of the family of the student?
So our detectives have obviously spoken to families of both juveniles involved, and those conversations are continuing. But as you can imagine, conversations related to the death of a child and obviously the arrest of another one.
Could you confirm the ages of the victim and the alleged shooter?
So Pion Dalmasy is 16 years old, and Ja'Cory Redding is 15 years old, and both sophomores.
The victim, I don't know how to pronounce his name still, but the victim.
Pignon.
Anything about him? Anything that you learned to us?
No, again, it's still very early on in the investigation, and again, it's unfortunate how this whole thing started, because from witnesses said that it started that the two just bumped into each other at school, and that led to a fight, which led to a deadly shooting.
Orange County Sheriff John Mina speaking, giving us some new details about that shooting that happened yesterday not far from Oak Ridge High School, where two sophomores were involved in that. A 16-year-old victim now dead after being shot, according to investigators, by a 15-year-old classmate of his at the school. That 16-year-old victim shot twice. This all stemmed from the victim apparently bumping in the hallway with the suspect not apologizing. Turned into a fight at the basketball court, and then turned into that deadly shooting. After that, the sheriff says that the suspect in this ran back to campus, was found inside the school cafeteria with the gun. That 15-year-old now charged with manslaughter and possession of a firearm on school property. Deputies asking for additional witnesses who may have seen what happened, or if anyone has any video as well. They're asking for that to help them as they continue with this investigation. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A state lawmaker here in Florida has proposed a bill that would threaten to withhold funding from state colleges and universities if they don't rename at least one road on their campus after Charlie Kirk. This is a bill that was proposed by State Representative Kevin Steele. He's a Republican from Hudson, that's in Pasco County, and he talked with executive producer Adam Pressler about some of his reasons for proposing the bill, some of the positions he's willing to compromise on as well to see that bill passed in the state legislature.
Representative, you've put forth this new initiative to rename a bunch of different roads after Charlie Kirk. Tell me why you think that's important.
Well, I mean, Charlie Kirk he revolutionized basically debate. He brought it to a place where not necessarily a conservative could have a foothold to all the colleges across the country. He stood for courage, wisdom, all the things that I find to be a great leader. He was a leader in a pathway for what he was doing. So he's leaving a legacy that I think is important that we recognize, and I think it's important that we recognize him at every university.
Yeah. So it sounds like the plan is to try to get one road renamed at every institution that gets funding from the state of Florida. Tell me why you think that it's important to have that as a statewide push.
Well, I mean, typically when you're trying to memorialize a person's view, memorialize the person, you push it across to a certain component. It's either a city or a county's requirement, and so his focus was bringing debate to a stage at universities. So I felt it was important that we actually target the universities to have that memorialized for him.
Any talks with your peers in the House, and what's the chance of this actually getting to the governor's desk?
I listen. I hope it does get to his desk. Obviously, we have to go through committees. Some of the changes, we're going to have to make some changes to it. I've already spoken to several different universities that some of the roads that were selected, were important to the universities to maintain that, and I understand that and respect that. Again, I think we should have the universities put his name at each location. It should be in a spot where people are actually going to see it. It shouldn't be some back road or back alley. This has become a controversial issue, and I'm not sure I understand why. I guess I understand, there's some people who have, strong views against his principle of Christianity, but, he was respectful. He had a foundational, delivery of what his views were. He listened to the other side. They had, great commentary between them all. So it wasn't necessarily a thing I thought would be as controversial as it is.
Yeah, it makes sense. Talking about those different roads, and I know that you said they're going to go back and maybe find a few different ones, but what was the process to how you picked those roads? How'd you decide which was going to get the names?
I took the same view that some other, martyrs have had named roads after them, and I wanted something that was going to be a main thoroughfare that people would actually have to see coming into the university. I didn't want it to be some side road that had no relevance. So,
sure. And then just tell me, obviously we spoke about your thoughts on him, in the space that he was in his push for his agenda. Did you have any personal connection to him? Were you a longtime friend, fan? Just sort of tell me or was this more about, seeing an event and trying to react in the correct way?
No, I mean, I'm not going to tell you I was a longtime friend. Obviously a fan of his. I'm not old enough to be his dad, I don't think, but I would admire having him as my son. He had core values that he stood by. He had courage and not noise. It was conviction, and I think that's the thing. Is like we should be united. We're all united as human beings, and it's these components that keep dividing us further and further apart. And I think he tried to unify individuals from all spectrums. Like, you're okay to have your own opinion, and people should respect the fact that you have an opinion. They don't have to agree with it, but they shouldn't be silenced because they have a different opinion. There's plenty of people in the House that I agree with, and there's plenty of people in the House that I don't agree with, but I respect everybody in the House. And that's the thing is, there's my first year and second year, I sat very close to a very vocal Democrat. She sat behind me, and I turned around during debates every time she spoke, and it wasn't to gawk at her, but it was to show respect because her view may change my view, or I may at least associate why she has the view she has. But if I don't listen to the other side and I just close-mindedly shut everybody down, then I'm no better than the person who took the shot. And so I think it's important that we come together and unite the nation. But we should recognize Charlie. He was not a criminal. He was a great human being who stood for common core values and felt that everybody should have, a position in life to be respected. He had his views, and he spoke about his views very passionately. But at the end of the day, he was killed because of his religious belief. It was not just his political belief; it was his religious belief as well. And so we can't have that in this country. And I think it's important that we have people in the future ask, why is this road called Charlie Kirk? I think it's important. I'm getting death threats. You wouldn't imagine. I mean, it's not like you see these things and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why somebody would feel the need to, speak poorly about my family, speak poorly about me. They don't know me as a human being. They just see that I ran. This is the first bill I've run that has any kind of, at least in my opinion, controversial position. And I didn't realize it was going to, but you would think that was my legacy, that's all I've done. I've run property tax bills to reduce the property taxes. I ran 3 of them last session before it was really cool to talk about property taxes. I ran an insurance reform to fix homeowners insurance. So there's other things I've done. A squatter rights bill, that was my bill I wrote. That ended up being a small controversial bill, but it was at least effective for everybody. So I don't get the extreme hate for individuals. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That was State Representative Kevin Steele talking about his reasons for proposing that legislation. Now, as you might imagine, that bill is getting some pushback from Democrats in the state house who argue that the legislation politicizes higher education and also distracts from some of the other pressing issues that the state is dealing with. State Representative Anna Escamani also spoke with Fox 35 executive producer Adam Pressler.
So right now we're seeing that the Republicans in Florida are trying to change a lot of roads on college campuses to be named after Charlie Kirk. Looking to get your initial reaction to their plan to do that.
Well, I think it's important to know that this is one bill filed by one Republican out of 120 members in the House and 40 in the Senate. And at this time, there is no Senate companion to this bill. And so it's important to note that we don't know what the future of this legislation looks like and that there's a pretty long ramp between now and the beginning and end of legislative session. Now, with that said, this bill is creating a lot of controversy. And of course, Charlie Kirk himself is someone that was known for political viewpoints that were quite controversial. And it's important that as universities, we not only, of course, condemn all types of political violence and create safe environments for students to debate ideas and to grow as leaders, but I have a lot of concern about forcing universities to change street names and then creating a layer of punishment if they don't do it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really important to make sure that our universities maintain academic neutrality and that we respect university autonomy and the culture on our campuses, which is not a political one. When you come to UCF, you have Gemini Boulevard. When you go to FSU, you have Chieftain. I mean, these are names that reflect the university's culture, mascots, and the efforts to politicize that and to reflect one political ideology. It's unsettling, it's undemocratic, and it's also challenging once more the First Amendment, which is paramount in this country and something that we should preserve, not erode.
Wanted to get your reaction on the fact that they're trying to do it at every university. Do you think that that's necessary and that's what the government should be doing. I think you kind of touched on that second
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, it's just unnecessary. And honestly, legislators should be focused on issues like housing affordability. I mean, we have students that can't even afford to go to college because they can't afford the housing. They can get a scholarship for academics, but they can't afford the housing. I mean, there's so many other issues that we can be focused on as a state when it comes to improving our higher educational institutions and supporting free speech. But this goes in the opposite direction. And I think it also would impact recruitment efforts at universities. You know, our universities are trying to compete with a very diverse pool of applicants, and it's not going to do us good if we are inserting a political ideology into the classroom and into our campuses in such a literal way. And at the end of the day, you know, these are colleges that are historic, that have built a brand on who they are, and the infrastructure reflects that. And if it's working, you know, why change it? Now, obviously, a new college has already committed to building a memorial that is going to be privately funded. So, of course, I would expect some of those activities to continue. But the notion of the legislature inserting itself and forcing universities and punishing them if they don't do it, it is not good policy, and it is something that we should oppose. And I think it's just important that, you know, when it comes to academic free speech and just respecting viewpoint diversity, there's already been a lot of concerns as it pertains to faculty and teachers in K-12 being targeted for their viewpoints. And it wasn't just 3 years ago where the legislature was passing bills to encourage courageous and uncomfortable conversations on a college campus. And now we're doing the complete opposite and restricting speech and preferencing speech. And so regardless of your viewpoint on Mr. Kirk or on politics today, I think we all agree that it's very important to create a space for neutrality and objectivity and not to politicize environments like our college campuses.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi was in Tampa earlier today talking about political violence. And in our last block, we were hearing a conversation about and debate over renaming roads on college campuses after Charlie Kirk. That was a name that was also invoked in the news conference earlier today. It was 1 month ago that he was shot and killed during that university event in Utah. And today we learned about more political violence and threats against another conservative influencer, Benny Johnson, who apparently had received a letter that with graphic descriptions of violence that were, according to investigators, that this person who sent the letter was threatening him over. And so we heard from the Attorney General, from the U.S. Attorney, and from Benny Johnson as well, speaking about this arrest of a man who is now charged in connection with making this threat and mailing that threat in a letter to that conservative influencer. Here's that news conference from just a little bit ago in Tampa.
We've been living through a horrific cycle of political violence in this country. We've seen attacks against police officers, federal agents, including the deadly shooting in the ICE facility in Dallas. Night after night, Antifa wreaks havoc on our streets of our cities. In Minnesota, a gunman murdered a state lawmaker and her husband. It was horrific. An anti-Semitic lunatic tried to burn down Governor Shapiro's house while he was in it with his wife and young children. This week, authorities arrested a man outside a Catholic church in Washington, D.C., with hundreds of explosive devices. And on September 10th, our nation stopped in its tracks with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We miss him dearly. Unfortunately, I'm here today to talk about similar threats that were made against Benny Johnson and his wife, Kate. Benny's a well-known media personality, carrying a message very similar to Charlie's, grounded largely in faith and love of country. Just days after Charlie's assassination, Benny received a letter at his home where he and Kate are raising their beautiful, beautiful young family. The author of this letter made it very clear that he hated Benny because of his views, and he wanted Benny dead. This was a coward hiding behind a keyboard who thought he could get away with this. That's why we're standing up here today. You are not going to get away with threatening people in this way. And I'm proud to announce that we have arrested the author of this letter. George Isbell Jr. was taken into custody this morning, and we are charging him federally with mailing threatening communications. It is a crime, and if convicted, he is going to prison. This was incredible teamwork. Benny called me right away. Chief Burkall, thank you. You were on it right away. Matt Fodor and all the FBI agents. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Kehoe. All of the U.S. Postal Service, FBI, state and local law enforcement working together. This is what it's about. And we are going to catch you if you think you can do something like this. We don't care if you're across the country in California. We will find you. We will arrest you. We will extradite you, and we will bring you to justice. We cannot allow this political violence to continue any longer. This arrest will serve as a reminder to many. Do not do this. We will find you. Greg Kehoe is going to give some details of the incident, of the horrible crime, and we're not going to get into specifics of what's in the letter. It's pretty horrific, and it's now a pending case. But I just want to thank all of the law enforcement officers standing behind me. And I want to thank Benny and Kate for standing so strong and fighting for their views and not cowering in fear, but coming out and supporting their faith and their values. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Just preliminarily, I'm Greg Kehoe, the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida. I just want to introduce some of the individuals that are here at the podium so you can put names to faces, and they have all participated in this. As the General just said, this was a coordinated effort. In my far right is Rodney Crawford. He's the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI. Next to him is Blad Rojo, who is the Inspector in charge for the Postal Service, and Mark Glass is behind me. Right behind me, he is the Commissioner of FDLE, and last but certainly not least is Chief Lee Burkall of the Tampa Police Department. You know, often we talk about coordinated, organized efforts by law enforcement to get something done, and I will tell you this is a textbook example of that. This letter came in to Mr. Johnson and his wife. We immediately contacted the Tampa Police Department. Lee Burkhaw and his folks at Tampa Police Department got on this letter right away. Right away, pulled in the FBI, pulled in FDLE. The Postal Service was able to track where this letter was sent from in San Diego in a miraculously quick period of time. FDLE turned around the fingerprints that were obtained from the particular letter to identify George Russell Isbell on this matter, and there was an arrest by the FBI who was coordinating this outside the San Diego area in conjunction with the local U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI in San Diego, and last but not least, the San Diego Police Department. What we have here, and you can look at the complaint that has been filed and that is before you, is a vicious, horrific letter threatening Mr. Johnson and his family, sent to Mr. Johnson's house. In the complaint that you'll see, and also it attaches Isbell's letter, he is calling for the extermination of Mr. Johnson, that he should be strangled by an American flag, that he hoped somebody blows his head off, and then some vicious, vicious comments thereafter. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been at this podium many times before, and I say this and I say it again to echo what the Attorney General has just said and what the Attorney General has said throughout the country when similar instances have come up. Such conduct will simply not be tolerated. It will not be tolerated. If you send a communication to anyone, anyhow, anywhere, where you are threatening individuals with harm, you will be prosecuted by the United States Department of Justice. And you will be prosecuted while we bring all of the joint assets of law enforcement, as you see here, the Tampa Police Department, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the United States Postal Service, and of course, coordinating this is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So the word should go out, and it should be no mistake that if you decide at any point, at any time, to write such a thing and send it over the wires, or in this instance, put it in the mails, you will be prosecuted and you will be held accountable. If we can just take a couple of moments, I know Mr. Johnson wants to make a few comments, and I invite you to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, officers. 1 month ago today, I witnessed my friend of 10 years, someone who I considered a brother, a loving husband, a devoted father, a generational leader, get assassinated on a live stream by a left-wing radical. Approximately 1 year ago, I witnessed the President of the United States get shot in the head by a left-wing radical, who also took the life of a Trump supporter in front of his daughters and wife. 2 months ago, Christian children kneeling and praying in a church were slaughtered by a left-wing extremist. And 2 weeks ago, federal law enforcement was shot at multiple sniper rounds in a federal facility by a left-wing extremist. If it's happening every single week, is it that extreme? Or has the Democrat Party mainstreamed violence as a political tool? The individual who wrote me described why he wanted me dead. I was a white, cis, Christian Trump supporter. They described in great detail how I would be killed in an open field, just like Charlie, how much blood would come out of my head and neck when it was blown off. This individual described orphaning my 4 beautiful children and widowing my wife with great joy. You might want to say, another left-wing radical, another extremist. And to that, I would like to direct your attention to the state of Virginia, where Democrats have nominated and are about to vote for the chief law enforcement officer in that state, a man who has done the exact same thing.
an individual who's calling for the assassination by bullets of Republicans that he disagrees with. The killing of their children. The slaughtering of, as he says, little fascists. Are my 4 innocent, beautiful children little fascists? Violence has been mainstreamed by the Democrat Party. It is not extremist, it is mainstream. And we need a moment of reckoning here. This has to stop. This cycle must end. Is any Democrat courageous enough to disavow violence? To call for individuals that espouse these things, like what happened to my family, or what's happening in Virginia, to call for those kind of candidates to step down? Will Democrats vote for that? Because if you're voting for that, then implicitly you're encouraging it, you're endorsing it. I don't want political violence. I want peace in my nation. I love this country. I want to be able to debate like Charlie did. I want to be able to raise my family in peace. That is our birthright. But you cannot make peace with evil as a Christian. You cannot unite with people who want you dead. I want unity in this nation. I want to be able to agree on more than what we disagree on. But for that first to happen, we must understand the battle. We are fighting good versus evil, darkness versus light. And good must conquer evil. Do not make peace with evil. To that end, and in conclusion, I would like to thank federal law enforcement, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bonjour, detectives here, with professionalism, courtesy, swift and tact. They were able to act instantly in order to make sure that my family was safe. Potentially to preserve the lives of my children. And they're doing that for families all around the country in many different ways. Every American should unite behind that cause. No matter who you are, you should say, this is a country where families should be able to raise their children safely, where people can have peaceful disagreements, where we can all live together under one American flag. I just want to profoundly thank the Trump administration and federal law enforcement and local law enforcement for saving my family. I will never forget it. It is the greatest goodness that has ever been done to me. And that is a thing that every American can get behind. The Trump administration making America safe again. God bless them.
Thank you. We'll take, do you want to, you have a few questions?
Attorney General.
Wait, I'll go left to right. Okay.
Attorney General, I do know that it's unfortunate what happened to your family in that letter, but he just described that this is solely put on by the Democratic Party. Do you see it that way, that this is something that is caused by the Democratic Party?
No, and I just talked about what happened in Minnesota to a Democrat, what happened in Pennsylvania to a Democrat governor. No, this was a left-wing radical, absolutely. The same type of person who murdered and assassinated Charlie Kirk. That's what we're talking about here today. But it doesn't matter who you are. If you commit an act of violence, a written threat, through the mail, we are going to find you. These men behind me are going to hunt you down and find you. This guy thought he got away with this, and he thought he could hurt Benny and his family, and it's not going to happen. We have open cases, other open cases all over this country, and we're going to find you. Any other question? Yes, hey. Sure.
This is an ongoing investigation. The man is in custody. I will defer that question until the appropriate time because it is still very much under investigation and following all the leads that we possibly can.
And that's a very good question.
I wanted to ask also,
Sure.
just during Charlie Kirk's funeral, the president said, I disagree with Charlie. I hate my opponent. I don't want the best for them. Would you encourage the president, just given what we're talking about here and the seriousness and how people take every word and use it to reinforce
the president said nothing about violence, absolutely nothing. And that was in response, I believe, to amazing Erica Kirk talking about her forgiveness. And he was saying how brave and bold she was and how difficult it is to forgive the person who assassinated. No, I'm not worried about that because that was not said. That was not said. No act of violence was said. If anyone is sending a threatening communication through the mail like they did to Benny Johnson, we're going to find them and we're going to prosecute them. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on.
Pam Bondi speaking a little bit ago in Tampa. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back with more Fox 35 News Plus after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Give you a live look right now at Kia Center, the home of the Orlando Magic. But the Magic are in Philly tonight, gearing up for a preseason matchup there. They've got another home preseason matchup coming up on Sunday, getting ready to open the season later this month against the Miami Heat. We heard from Jamal Mosley and Tristan De Silva speaking to reporters as training camp continued.
Today's focus was really, it was one of those days where we had a pretty hard scrimmage yesterday. They competed, so we were able to break the film down. Our coaches did a big-time job of teaching and communicating. The guys' communication was really good on the things we need to accomplish, which was we were focused on the sprint game, focus on our crashing ability, then the defensive side of the ball, like being in the right position and knowing where you are on the floor at all times, depending on where the ball is.
Where do you want to see the team, like kind of this emphasis on running, where do you want to see the team kind of continue to improve and grow?
Conditioning. Yeah.
Just being able to do it longer and further.
You got to be able to play both sides of the basketball. We talk about being able to run, but with us being at the defensive team, that's where we're hanging our hat. You've got to be able to do both.
Is there a challenge trying to run more, maybe get a few more possessions and still being that hard-nosed defensive team? Just typically, a stronger defensive team when they
got to do both.
Got to do both.
Got to do both.
How would you evaluate the conditioning level of your team? Where do you feel like they are?
I think this upcoming game will be able to tell us a little bit more. I think in 8 or 9 days into training camp, our ability to see that against a different opponent, having subs, knowing how long guys can go, I'll be able to evaluate it a little bit more as we get into this next game.
How much have you made an emphasis too on the communication aspect of the team and making sure that they're communicating with each other, knowing where they're at, but being able to speak out a little more?
No, that's what they've asked each other to do. And I think yesterday the big term I used was ownership. Them being able to take ownership of what's right, what's wrong, what they feel, what they see, being able to communicate it to one another. And I say it time and time again, great teams are based on how well how the guys communicate with one another and how they're holding each other accountable. And that's what this group is really moving towards.
Jalen and Mo not available tomorrow, right?
Correct.
How is the health of the rest of your team after 4 more practice?
I think they're sore, but they're all healthy.
Do you have a plan? Are you planning to play everybody tomorrow, or is that still kind of the wait and see?
That's the wait and see game a little bit.
The annual GM survey came out this morning, and 47% of GMs view your team as the most improved at entering this season. How do you interpret the term most improved and the way the GMs view your team?
I look at it as everybody's undefeated right now. So statistics can say one thing, opinions can say it's one thing. We got to get on the floor. And that's why our job is just to get better every day and not think about the outside voices of what they say and their opinions of what we're doing. You know, great that they think that, but now the other side of it is we've got to go out and put a product on the floor that we can be proud of every night.
As far as kind of building conditioning, even just like a sense of practice, how critical is it the way the schedule is constructed to play at Philadelphia, come home, play games Sunday at home against another tough defensive team in Miami? You've seen before. How critical is that to like kind of getting the rhythm of a season down and making sure that the conditioning is where you want it?
That's the beauty of preseason. You get yourself prepared for the things that you're going to see during the regular year, and the schedule matches up to pretty much how our season is going to be this year. Long road trip, come home, play one game, go back out, back-to-backs. You got to be prepared for it now, and using this preseason to work on what your body's going to be like and how you feel throughout the year. It starts now.
Getting back to the media's question, there's a lot of flowery responses from GMs about Desmond Bain. As you talk to your counterparts about the league, what is the league view of him?
Yeah, we spoke about this yesterday a little bit, he and I actually, just being able to talk about how great his responsibility is to this team and how he's embraced that, but it's more so about just him being himself in the role that, he did play for Memphis, that he's played in college, and he's been a leader. He's been a great teammate. He's, outspoken, toughness, shooting, all those little small pieces he brings to the table, and I think that's exactly what he provides for us.
And another thing in the survey is your group was voted among the most fun to watch. What do you think makes Magic basketball fun to watch in your mind?
I think the group they've got a toughness about them, they've got a togetherness, and then there's the aspect of they play with a sense of joy for one another because they get.
That was Jamal Mosley, the head coach of the Orlando Magic. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll be back at the top of the hour with Florida Live, and welcome in.
Florida Live starts now.
And I want to thank the state of Florida and Marion County for doing what Kentucky wouldn't do and putting the monster back behind bars.
A grieving father's word of thanks and relief after the man convicted in a case that involved the stabbing death of that man's 6-year-old was rearrested. Welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer. Thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube and on Fox 35 TV. 42-year-old Ronald Exantis was arrested in Marion County here in Central Florida for failure to register as a convicted felon.
Bring them all the way back.
I don't know if I did it. Coming back.
Put your hands behind your back, Ronald.
Yes, sir. What's going on? What's going on? Yes, sir. You have anything on me? No, sir.
Pretty tight. All right, man. You do have a warrant for your arrest out of Florida, okay? We'll talk about it in a minute. Yeah, I'll call it out. I just don't want that to become. It's good. Double up.
42-year-old Ronald Exantis being arrested at a home in Marion County, not far from Sunrise Elementary School. This is a case that has captured the attention of the nation. Exantis was convicted of assault in 2015 in a case that involved the stabbing death of a 6-year-old boy in Kentucky. That boy's name was Logan Tipton. These are some of the photos from his family. Ronald Exantis ended up serving 8 years of a 20-year sentence, was placed on parole and released from custody recently in Kentucky. And the father of this boy told a TV station in Lexington, Kentucky, that if he ever saw Exantis or came across him, he would kill him on the spot. Those comments went viral, got the attention of the White House and a lot of attention on this case, and before Exantis was rearrested in Marion County. Now, I had the chance to speak with Dean Tipton earlier today via Zoom. He said he is relieved by the arrest of this suspect, but doesn't want to lose sight in all of this of what happened to his son and how they remember him. How did you find out about Exantis' arrest down here?
Actually watching Fox News. We had just turned it on and it come across breaking news with Will Kane, and that's how we found out that he was arrested.
What's going through your mind at that point when you saw that?
Shock, disbelief, happiness, sadness, everything, all the emotions all wrapped up in one.
It's been, a couple weeks now that he's been out on parole?
Yeah, like a week and a half.
What has that time been like for you?
It's been pretty nerve-wracking. It opened up a lot of scars and wounds that I thought I had healed from, that I have found out obviously I haven't. And it's pretty much the same thing with all my family. Just being on edge, anxiety, breakdowns. I had to take off from work just because my mental state wasn't in a very good spot.
Dean, this is a case that has been getting a lot of national attention over the past week or so, especially because of what you told WKYT there in Lexington, that if you ever came across Ronald Exantis, you would kill him on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the regrets I have is not doing it that night. But I didn't know Logan was hurt. I didn't know he had been injured at all. But I think any father would feel the same way. I don't want my kids to have to walk around the rest of their life wondering if this man was going to come back and do the job, finish the job that he told them that he was going to do.
How much have you talked about some of the wounds being reopened? It's been 10 years, and yet, here you are reliving some of these things. How hard is that?
it's like reliving December 7th all over again, that whole time period. And maybe a little worse because, during that time we had adrenaline going, this time it was just all a shock and kind of caught us by surprise. And it's just sickening knowing that he could get out the way he got out.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I was in the courtroom for the trial. I was there that late night, early morning when the verdict was read, and I remember some of the confusion over the verdict and how he would be able to be convicted of assault, but found not guilty by reason of insanity for the murder of Logan. And I'm just curious what you've kind of learned about the justice system through this whole process.
You mean the unjust system? That's what it is. There was no justice. There was no accountability for who killed my son. Pretty much we were told nobody did it. And it's a disgrace to Kentucky, and it's a disgrace to our nation, knowing that a man can go in and stab a 6-year-old sleeping boy to death and then plead insanity and walk free. We know he didn't walk free because he got the time for the assaults, but he walked free from the murder of my son.
And then after all that, only spending 8 years behind bars before being released on parole. What do you think of that part of it?
Yeah, they say this MRS, whatever the hell this law is that they created, was for nonviolent criminals. How in the world is he deemed a nonviolent criminal, even though it doesn't show on his charges that he had murdered somebody? How do you nonviolently assault somebody with a weapon? That makes no sense to me.
Dean, your family's been getting a lot of support on social media from folks all across the country. We know the White House has said they have been looking into this case. I'm wondering who all maybe you've heard from and what you kind of make of the response to this.
Seeing everybody tweet it out and share Logan's story, it's good to see, because that's the only way we're ever going to get change, is getting it out there and getting it shared, and the people speaking up and being outraged over it. But as far as anybody contacting me, the only person that's contacted me is Mr. Jason Nemus. He's a state representative here in Kentucky. Other than that, and he's contacting us about wanting to create a Logan's Law. But as far as the justice system, the DOJ, the president, our governor, nobody has contacted us and told us anything. We found out that he was rearrested or was arrested in Florida through the news. Nobody has contacted us that, hey, he's back in jail. You all can, breathe a sigh of relief right now. We are finding everything out on our own through social media, and I'm disgusted with Kentucky by not reaching out to us. And I want to thank the state of Florida and Marion County for doing what Kentucky wouldn't do and putting the monster back behind bars.
Dean, I want to talk about Logan for a minute. He was 6 years old. It's been almost 10 years. He'd be, 16. Driver's license, all that, those things that you think about with turning 16. And I'm curious how much you think about that and the kid that he would be today if it weren't for what happened on December 7th, 2015.
I think about this every day. I think any parent would think about their son every day, but I often wonder how big he would be. I see his teammates that he played football with in kindergarten. I see them all the time, and they're sophomores and juniors in high school, and I see how much they have grown. And I often wonder, how big would he be? What would his personality be like now? I think about him a lot.
What do you want people to know about him? As we focus on what happened to Ronald Exantis here, but don't want to lose sight of your son. What do you want people to know about Logan?
He genuinely had a good, loving heart. He loved everyone. And I know that sounds crazy, but we would be in the grocery store and he'd disappear on us. You can imagine me and my wife with 5 kids running around. And he would disappear, and I would catch him in the next aisle hugging some stranger that I didn't even know, telling him that he loved him. And that's who Logan was. A quick story. His Sunday school teacher told me this, and this was like 2 weeks before December 7th that he had done this. But he was at Sunday school, and they were writing down what they were going to give Jesus for his birthday, for Christmas coming up. And Logan hadn't written anything down, and the Sunday school teacher asked him, like, Logan, why haven't you written anything down? And he said that he had done given Jesus his gift. He had done gave him his heart. And that was coming from a 6-year-old boy. So that right there should tell you what kind of kid he was.
We'll be right back. A live look right now at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera, and you can see the tide up really high right now. You can't even see any of the sand on the beach. We are feeling the impacts of storms off the coast this afternoon. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. It is time now for our Tampa Connection, and for that we go to Fox 13 Tampa Bay, and senior content producer Nancy Gay joining us live now from the Fox 13 newsroom. And Nancy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Well, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi returned to her home of Tampa today. She was in town this morning during holding a press conference regarding ways to combat political violence. Now, during this morning's press conference, Bondi was surrounded by law enforcement officers as she announced the arrest of a man who's accused of sending a death threat in the mail to conservative political commentator Benny Johnson. Now, Johnson does live in Tampa, and that letter was sent to his Tampa home. Bondi said just days after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Johnson received a letter at his home stating that the author hated Johnson because of his views and that he wanted Johnson dead. The letter also stated that that author wanted Johnson to be strangled by the American flag and that he hoped somebody would, quote unquote, blow his head off. Now, U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, Greg Kehoe, he also attended today's conference, and that he said that upon receiving this letter, Johnson immediately contacted the Tampa Police Department, and the Tampa Police brought in the FBI as well as the FDLE. The post office was then able to trace that letter back to San Diego, California, and the FDLE was able to turn around fingerprints on that letter to identify George Russell Isbell as the author. Isbell was arrested in San Diego. He was charged with mailing threatening communications. Now, if he is convicted, Bondi vowed that he will go to prison. This case is still under investigation, and Bondi said that there are several other open cases across the country, and she promised to find anyone who is making threats in the mail, regardless of which political side of the aisle they are on. Garrett?
Concerning to continue to see things like this happen. We know the kind of tense climate that we are in. So, you know, concerning anytime you see something like this, but interesting to hear how they were kind of able to track this person down.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear about the ways they were able to track this person down. Again, this was a letter that Benny Johnson received in the mail at his Tampa home. And it sounds like, you know, upon immediately contacting law enforcement, the wheels were set in motion to get involved, the FDLE as well as the FBI. And they were able to trace the fingerprints that were on that letter back to San Diego, California. And again, today she announced the arrest of George Isbell in that case.
And coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to hear from one of our law enforcement experts to talk about investigations like this and also cracking down on political violence. So you can stay tuned for that coming up in just a little bit. Nancy, our second story in the Tampa Connection, and a lot of questions about a death investigation in Trinity.
Yeah, this is really heartbreaking. A Bay Area family is demanding answers after their loved one, an 83-year-old man, was found dead in a freezer inside of an assisted living facility in Trinity. Now, 83-year-old Gene Ray, you see him up there on your screen right now, he was a U.S. Navy veteran, and he was living at the Waverly Assisted Living and Memory Care in Trinity. His family said his memory was declining, and he was starting to show signs of early dementia. Now, Ray moved into that facility in May, and his family said that at first everything seemed fine, but they did start having concerns about staffing. That's why his daughter installed a Ring camera inside her father's room so that she'd be able to keep an eye on him when she couldn't be there. And in weeks leading up to his death, she said that she noticed that her father seemed more confused. Now, one night about 2 weeks ago, his daughter said that she noticed Ray was acting abnormally. She said that when she checked on her father's Ring camera, he was gone. That's when she alerted her mother, who alerted staff, and she raced to the facility. Now, once she got there, after a while, staff told her that they found her father in the freezer's facility. The Pasco County Sheriff's Office, as well as Pasco County Fire Rescue, did go out to that assisted living facility. Ray was taken for medical treatment, but he was pronounced dead. Now, Ray's daughter said she went back and reviewed the Ring camera footage, and she said that she saw her dad get out of bed and leave his room about 12:30 in the morning, which was hours before he was found. Ray's family wants to see action taken to improve safety measures at that facility and to make sure this never happens again. Now, we did reach out to the Waverly, and they sent us a statement, and in part, they said, "We cannot accept a false narrative being pressed upon our residents and their families. When unmoderated, anonymous, non-factual reviews go unchecked, they become perception. That perception undermines how hard every member of the Waverly family works to provide quality of life, enjoyment, and a wonderful place to call home. The safety, dignity, and well-being of our residents is and always will be our highest priority. We have never experienced an incident of this nature in the many years of operating in the assisted living space. Our community is deeply saddened by this heartbreaking loss. So there is no room for misinterpretation. We have and shall remain in complete compliance with state, local, and federal regulations. The general public will be surprised in the future when certain aspects are appropriate for discussion in public forum." Now, the sheriff's office said that preliminary information shows the incident was accidental and no foul play is suspected. Garrett?
It's still heartbreaking to hear about, and a lot of questions, I'm sure, still for his loved ones.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of questions, and it certainly is heartbreaking. And again, they just want to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else.
And finally, in our Tampa connection, a sentencing in a double murder trial.
Yes, that's right. A jury recommended that an illegal immigrant who was convicted of killing his girlfriend as well as her 4-year-old daughter, they recommended that he die for these crimes. A jury voted 10-2 in favor of the death penalty. Now, after that recommendation was read, the defendant, Angel Kuzchak, who you see right there, he could be seen weeping and wailing, and he had to physically be removed from the courtroom. Now, in April of 2024, deputies went to a location in Dover after getting a 911 call about a woman with traumatic injuries lying face down in a shed. Witnesses on the scene directed those deputies to where they found Kuzchak's girlfriend dead with visible injuries consistent with a violent struggle, and they did follow a blood trail into the home, and that's where they found her 4-year-old daughter also dead from several stab wounds. Documents stated that Kuzchak is an illegal immigrant from Guatemala, and prosecutors say that he killed his girlfriend as well as her child because he was angry that she stayed out late with a friend. Now, while the jury did recommend the death penalty in this case, Tampa Judge Michelle Cisco will now hold what's called a Spencer hearing in this case at 10 a.m. on December 11th, which is when she will hand down Kuzchak's official sentencing. Garrett?
All right, well, that is our Tampa Connection. Fox 13 senior content producer Nancy Gay, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
I want to give you a live look right now at the White House, where First Lady Melania Trump made an announcement earlier today, speaking about direct talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the result being able to begin reunifying some Ukrainian children and with their families who were displaced by the war. First Lady Melania Trump talking about 8 children who have already been returned to their families, making that announcement earlier today.
With President Putin's team to ensure the safe reunification of children with their families between Russia and Ukraine. In fact, 8 children have been rejoined with their families during the past 24 hours. Each child has lived in turmoil because of the war in Ukraine. 3 were separated from their parents and displaced to the Russian Federation because of frontline fighting. The other 5 were separated from family members across borders because of the conflict, including one young girl who has now been reunited from Ukraine to Russia. I have learned a lot about this matter during the past 3 months. Russia has demonstrated a willingness to disclose objective and detailed information reflective for the current situation. The Russian Federation provided biographies and photographs of each child involved in this week's reunification, along with an overview of the social, medical, and psychological services afforded to the Ukrainian children. Further, I was provided a detailed report which verified the identities and circumstances of these 8 individuals. The U.S. government.
First Lady Melania Trump speaking today, humanitarian progress in Russia's war in Ukraine. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, give you a live look at the White House right now in Washington, D.C. on this Friday afternoon. We'll be right back with more after this. A live look at the White House right now on this Friday afternoon in Washington, D.C. Also give you a live look at the U.S. Capitol as the government shutdown continues as well. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. And we just talked about it in our Tampa connection, and that's the arrest of a California man accused of sending a mailing a threatening letter to conservative influencer Benny Johnson. He is now arrested and facing charges. Just the latest incident of political violence and threats that we continue to see in this day and age. But we've got some questions about the investigation and how things like this work. And so we want to bring in Jamie Copenhaver, a former sheriff's detective and investigator, one of our law enforcement experts that we often draw on his expertise. And Jamie, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Florida Live.
Thank you, Garrett, and happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Jamie, I first just want to get your reaction to this arrest because, you know, we've talked before about the climate in this country and political violence, and, you know, it's something that we continue to see. And so I just want to get your reaction to some of the details and some of what we learned about this arrest and this case of this threat.
You know, we're just coming off the assassination of Charlie Kirk and out in Utah. So, you know, this is fresh in everyone's mind, Garrett. Unfortunately, you're going to have the radicals, whether it's on the left or right, you know, one side wants to blame another, but both are equally responsible. We see that on social media. We've covered it here on your show. So, it's not a great surprise that we see the arrest of this individual from California making overt threats to Benny Johnson and his family. So I think, unfortunately, we're going to see more of this in the future, Garrett.
I want to talk more broadly here for a second, and then we'll get into this case specifically. But what are some of the challenges of investigating threats like this and graphic descriptions of violence like this when you're talking about the kind of current climate we're in?
I mean, everyone has an opinion. Social media amplifies those opinions by 100, right? So, you're able to go out on social media and pretty much put out whatever you want to. But here's a caveat to that. When you start writing personal letters or personal emails going to that targeted person that you're opposing, or you don't like what he said or she said, freedom of speech stops. But let me tell you, from a law enforcement side of this, some of these are challenging to work. A lot of people are very savvy in terms of how they're sending their mail. We know that there's cameras just about everywhere we go. So if you're dropping this off at a local post office or a post office box on a street, there's a pretty good chance there's a camera nearby that's going to capture that. But here you go again. If you're not leaving any latent prints, something identifiable to your person, or a witness, some of these are challenging to work up and actually affect an arrest.
I'm glad you brought up the fingerprints, because I think that was one of the interesting things about this case, because they were able to trace this back to the man who, all the way to San Diego, and the man who sent this, and they used fingerprints. So talk to us about some of how that would work to do that.
If I may, I mean, this is how bolden some of these people are, that they're not even wearing gloves or protecting their identities, right? They're just pinning a letter and sending it without using latex gloves or any type of covering on their fingers. So very stupid on that guy's part, but that shows how radical he is. In terms of forensic evidence, I mean, it solved and basically brought this man to justice. As we heard that presser from the U.S. Attorney Pam Bondi today, that case was solely made on latent fingerprints that the arrestee left on that letter and perhaps the envelope that was sent to Charlie Kirk's person.
It seems kind of surprising for those of us who aren't experts in this, but that they would be able to still dust for fingerprints and be able to kind of find something like that. That was obviously, obviously a lot of time had passed between the time that whoever it was wrote this letter, sent it across the country, and it arrived at the home of Benny Johnson.
I'm going to give Benny Johnson some credit here. He's savvy and up to speed enough to know, hey, wait a minute, let's not contaminate and handle this letter, right? So, Benny was able to call the chief of police without delay, preserve that letter for safekeeping. It's my understanding that the police units arrived there within about 15 minutes, from what I hear, and obviously took possession of that letter, an envelope, preserving the fingerprints. But, Garrett, let's go back 50 years ago. We didn't have all the technology. We had a cop on the beat at a burglary that would break out the fingerprint dust and dust for prints on a windowsill and develop latent fingerprints. So, it's not new technology, but I'll tell you what it is. It's sound technology, because most of us have 10 digits, and every one of those fingers have a fingerprint that are unique to that person.
You talk about social media and the difficulty. In some of the lines that are crossed, some of the lines that are blurred. Obviously, this letter crossed a lot of lines. So we heard some of the graphic descriptions of violence that were reportedly included in that letter. So I don't think anyone is arguing that crossed lines, and that was certainly a very real threat. But I'm just curious, when we're talking about political violence and we're talking about threats like this now, and just how common things like this are on social media, and how that can make it difficult, probably in some ways, to weed out threats that may be serious versus someone who may just kind of be spouting off.
I think if you have an opinion, you're human, you're going to espouse your objection to whatever party you're opposing, right? It's not like the old days where you go to the barbershop and have a debate or a heated conversation. Unfortunately, with social media, everyone sits behind a keyboard. And Garrett, you just it's almost like when you start talking to the police, you don't know when to shut up, right? You just keep your mouth shut, but they keep talking and keep talking. And it's so free to sit at home and be a keyboard warrior and perhaps go over the line in terms of free speech where it becomes either threatening or harmful. And I think today set sort of a new standard coming from the U.S. Attorney's Office. They're not going to tolerate any of these threats. And, you know, the Attorney Pam Bondi pointed out from both sides of the aisle. So it doesn't mean if you're a Republican, Democrat, or independent, if you're out there espousing threats like this, they're going to investigate you. They're going to find you. And according to the Attorney General, you're going to be held accountable and go to jail.
Well, and they're going to have their hands full because we do see a lot of that on social media. And so I would imagine that makes it tough when you're talking about so much to kind of sift through out there, because it's not always in the form of a letter sent to someone's house.
Yeah, and here's, you know, I hear it from the left and the right. I have friends from both sides of the aisle, and I try to keep it down the center. But I'm like, you know, I always get engaged in these heated debates with my friends. Well, it's my freedom of speech. It's my right. Well, freedom of speech is great until it starts to harm other people, or you're making threat, especially over the internet or in person. So my better bet is I hope that the federal intelligence agencies such as the FBI, ATF, et cetera, are you know, dealing with their local and state law enforcement, Garrett, and these fusion centers, which are located throughout the U.S., are collecting the data on these potential threats. And, you know, hopefully they'll start getting some knocks on the doors to sort of tamper that down, or maybe distract that person from actually carrying that threat out, much like the Secret Service does with the president on his events.
Yeah, it is discouraging to see, I think, sometimes that it is so prevalent these days, and for all the talk of trying to tamp down the rhetoric and that kind of thing, we still see threats and you know, just far too pervasive, and so it's a shame to see. But
May I point out one other thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, if you're sitting at home and you're scrolling on social media and you see something that just doesn't look right, and it looks like some radical or whack job that's you know, you're not sure if it's a threat or not. If you perceive that as a threat, pick up the phone and call the authorities. You may save someone's life. You may save someone from actually getting their home burned down or getting shot. There's nothing wrong with reporting suspicious activity like that. And I think, Garrett, until we start doing that, it's not going to change.
Well, and to your point, the Attorney General also recently, here in Florida, recently launched that portal where people can submit, you know, tips to make it a little bit easier for people to do that. So I appreciate you raising that point.
Thank you so much.
Jamie Copenhaver, former sheriff's detective and investigator. Always appreciate your time and expertise, and thanks for joining us here on Florida Live.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. A live look right now at the Port Canaveral in Brevard County. This from our Launch Credit Union camera. And as you see scrolling along the bottom of your screen there, we are seeing some coastal flood warnings in Brevard County, Flagler County, Volusia County, some flash flood warnings as well. So certainly something to be aware of this afternoon as the rain continues to fall across our region, seeing some of those impacts from the storms off in the Atlantic. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35 TV. We heard an update from Orange County Sheriff John Mina just a little bit ago. If you've been watching us on Fox Local, we did take that live about 1 o'clock. It was a planned fight between two students that turned into a deadly shooting, and a 16-year-old dead, a 15-year-old now facing charges. This happened after one teen bumped another in the hallway at school, didn't end up apologizing for it. As I said, it turned into a planned fight at the basketball court, and one of those teenagers ended up dead. Orange County Sheriff John Mina gave an update on that situation just a little bit ago.
Today, because a very minor altercation on school campus turned into a deadly shooting after school, and now a 16-year-old is dead, and 15-year-old made a choice that could change the rest of his life. It's unfortunate. Both of them were sophomores and had their entire lives ahead of them. So yesterday, about 2:45 p.m., our deputies responded to a shooting at Vogt Maloon Park on West Oak Ridge Road near Oak Ridge High School. When our deputies arrived, they found who had been shot twice. So there were a number of witnesses on scene who'd said that earlier in the day that had bumped into on school campus and had asked or told to apologize. He would not. The two agreed to meet after school off campus to fight at the park. So my heart goes out to family who is grieving the unimaginable loss of their 16-year-old. And, you know, I'm really angry that something as small as bumping into someone in the halls of a high school, something that we have all done, has now turned into a deadly shooting of a 16-year-old. This death could have been prevented, but a 15-year-old with a gun made the choice to change someone's life. So right after this shooting, ran back onto campus at Oak Ridge High School. Our school resource officer, Deputy Nelson Rodriguez, heard the shooting go out on the radio, immediately started coordinating with school administrators at Oak Ridge High School. The school was placed on lockdown, and as information was coming in about who was responsible for the shooting, was located in the school cafeteria, and he was also in possession of the gun. So he's 15 years old, was arrested and charged with manslaughter with a firearm. He's also charged with possession of firearm on school property. So we know there are additional witnesses who saw this incident and the shooting, and we also believe there could be additional video that we would like to see. So if anyone has any additional information, and certainly if anyone has any video, please notify the Orange County Sheriff's Office. If you want to remain anonymous, you can call Crime Line at 800-423-TIPS. Again, no one's ever going to know who you are. You can call Crime Line at 800-423-TIPS. And for students and parents who are familiar with the Fortify Florida app, they can use that app to give us that information. So again, very tragic incident that has changed the lives ended one life and changed the life of two very young people. forever. And so happy to take any questions at this time. Just know that we're very early on in the investigation.
And it might be too early for this, but do the two individuals here have more of a history dating back before yesterday?
So it's our initial indication that there was no ongoing history between the two of us, but between the two of them. But again, we're still investigating.
Could you confirm if the alleged shooter had the firearm on campus all day?
So we don't know that. So what we do know is that when he ran back on campus, there was a gun found in his backpack.
Do you know how he got that gun? Did it come from someone new?
So we do not know how he got the gun. We don't know where the gun came from. In these instances, in my experience, that the gun was purchased off the street or given to him by someone, but we don't have any information yet as to where the gun came from.
But as far as you know, Sheriff, it did not come from a family member?
We have no idea where the gun came from right now.
Does Ja'Cory have more of a history with your office, or is this the first time?
Yeah, he is pending trial for grand theft auto, resisting without violence, and I believe a trespassing in a conveyance charge as well. So he was arrested for that, and the trial is pending on that charge.
When did that arrest happen?
I would have to get that to you. I don't have the exact date.
Sheriff, just literally a mile from the school is a program as part of the mayor's effort to fund mentoring programs to put guns down, maybe put gloves up, martial arts, self-defense, things like that. Is this message getting through to people on campus?
So there are hundreds of mentoring programs throughout Central Florida, and I believe the majority of that is actually working and getting through. Unfortunately, those programs may not touch every single person, or certainly youth may not take advantage of those programs, and it may not translate to them, getting the help that they need or the mentoring they need. But certainly those programs are available. People know about them. They're advertised all the time.
When it comes to that area where the shooting happened, are y'all planning on having more security over there after the shooting?
So there is additional patrol in that area today, and just so as a reminder, in all of Orange County Public Schools, there is a school resource officer or deputy assigned to every single school from the first bell until the end of the day.
Two questions for me. First one, clarifying, the school resource officer heard on the radio who he should be looking for and identified the student on campus, found them in the cafeteria?
That's correct. Information was coming from witnesses about who was involved, about what they were wearing. He quickly worked with the assistant principal who identified what student was. They went to the cafeteria, located him there with a backpack with the firearm inside the backpack.
And how many students were still on campus or in the cafeteria?
I don't have that information right now.
Could you spell everyone's name?
I can get that to you right afterwards.
Okay.
With the open carry laws and related incidents that we've seen in the schools, do you feel that you advocate for metal detectors in Orange County Public Schools?
So anything that would prevent firearms from being on schools, I'm in favor of. I know Orange County Public Schools, they have canines that are trained to smell ammunition and use those quite frequently.
Have the parents of either said anything to you, the parents of the student who is now in custody, said anything to you that stood out, or the parents or family of the student who?
So our detectives have obviously spoken to families of both juveniles involved, and those conversations are continuing. But as you can imagine, conversations related to the death of a child and obviously the arrest of another one.
Could you confirm the ages of the victim and the alleged shooter?
So 16 years old is 15 years old, and both sophomores.
This victim, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it still, but anything that you learned with this?
No, again, it's still very early on in the investigation, and it's unfortunate how this whole thing started, because from witnesses said that it started that the two just bumped into each other at school, and that led to a fight, which led to a deadly shooting.
A sad situation. Give you a view of downtown Orlando right now as we go to break here on Florida Live. We'll be right back after this. A live look at downtown Orlando on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and it is a 407 Friday here, we like to call it. So this is when we get to have a little fun here on Florida Live, because we bring in Marlisa Goldsmith, the host of the 407 at 4 o'clock on Fox 35. Marlisa, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, Garrett. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else besides right here with you on your birthday.
That's might have been the nicest thing you've ever said about me. You know, I take it with a grain of salt. I'm not sure how true it is, but I still appreciate it.
You know that comes from the best place in my heart, Garrett. You know that.
Of course. So the 407, off to a great start. Seems like you're having a lot of fun with it.
Having so much fun. We've had some really great interviews this week. One of my favorites has been interviewing Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood. We had a lot of fun. We talked about everything from him being just about everywhere all at once. Whenever there's a call, it seems like he's there almost. He has performed pit maneuvers. He has arrested youth who have been caught up in crime. He meets people at the bottom of the escalator at the airport when they come and they're extradited to Florida. So he's everywhere. And then we kind of got to know a little bit of the fun side of this sheriff when I did my rapid fire questions with him. So I found out his choice for his go-to song for karaoke.
Oh, and that is?
Sinatra.
Oh. I wouldn't mind hearing Sheriff Chitwood sing some Sinatra. Did you invite him back to do that?
I almost invited him to a karaoke night, but I said, this is our first time. You know, I don't want to go too far.
But I'm glad you brought up that interview, because you've talked to, you know, the people that we hear from and talk to a lot.
Yeah.
Orange County Mayor Jerry Dimmings. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood, and these are people we talk to often and interview about you know, news and difficult topics a lot of times. But I love the interviews that you do, because you're able to see a different side of them and get to know them a little bit. And they're fun.
They're such fun people, and I feel like the feedback that we've been getting back from the viewers, you all have been saying, I did not know that my mayor or my sheriff was this fun. So it's been refreshing, and it's been so nice and really cool to see that side of them and kind of let the badge down, let their official title down, and have a little bit of fun with us here on the 407.
Yeah, because it's certainly not a side that we often get to see of them. So I think that's really neat. So what do you have coming up on the show today? I know there's some exciting things ahead.
More fun, of course. Lauren Margolis, she's actually going to be at Central Florida Zoo for Zoo Boo Bash. We're talking about Halloween with animals, of course, so it can't get any better than that. A perfect opportunity to dress the kids up in costumes and do some safe trick-or-treating at the zoo.
You don't just have to dress up the kids, dress up the animals, maybe?
Yes, the animals too.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course.
We like to get our animals
I know you do.
in the costume.
Have you decided?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I mean,
that seemed a little derisive.
No, it wasn't shady. It was like, I know you, Garrett, and I know we've had a conversation about this before.
It seemed like, yeah, we know, like that's a weird thing that Garrett does, but I have 2 dogs, and we do like to incorporate them into like family costumes.
Have you all made your selections for this year?
We have not.
It's a little late.
We're normally like week of.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes even day before. so I've still got some time. It is nice when we do a little planning ahead, so we're not just like Amazoning like same day delivery, something that we're trying to like track down.
Well, while we're on the topic of costumes, I have the perfect place that you might want to go visit. Stephanie Buffamonte is actually going to be at the Orlando Family Stage for their costume sale that's happening this afternoon starting at 4 o'clock. They're going to be running it tomorrow as well. We previewed this story last week. Lauren was out there. This is such a cool idea. So the Family Stage, they have costumes galore. There they are right there. Amanda's there in this video, and you can see they have everything from accessories, wigs, capes, gloves, actual costumes, and they start as low as $5. I mean, we're talking about quality things here.
Anything there that catches your eye? What would you be reaching for?
Right there. That.
Okay.
Cover this face.
I was going to say we can probably arrange that. If someone's going to be out there, Stephanie's going to be out there. I'm sure she can grab that.
I can't wait to see what she finds today. And then of course, Food Truck Friday, Garrett. In celebration for your birthday, we are bringing ice cream to you. There it is right there. We have the Palm Bay Police Department. They actually have an ice cream truck. So they are here. I just checked outside. They have arrived. The ice cream is going to be here ready to go starting at 4 o'clock. And then we have a celebrity chef that's also going to be stopping by who was actually on Next Level Chef talking barbecue. Do you like barbecue?
I do.
Yeah.
I like barbecue a lot.
I don't know if he will have barbecue, so I don't want to get your hopes up because you're looking at me like I like barbecue, make that happen.
Yeah, I was like, I like barbecue. I could have some barbecue and ice cream before I even walk out the door to go home. I had my whole dinner already planned.
We want to save a little bit for your wife. You know, we don't want to just give you everything here.
That's true. Going to be spending my evening at the Lake Mary High School and Seminole High School football game tonight.
Yes.
Big rivalry matchup. Going to be a good game.
Oh, well, that's one way to celebrate. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun.
Well, maybe you can get some concession stand nachos. I hear those are good.
Yes. You know what? My wife loves nachos. I make fun of her because we'll go to a restaurant and what does she want? Nachos. I'm like, nachos are nachos. You can get those anywhere. I try to get her to branch out, and she does.
Let her live.
She lives.
Okay.
Well, anyway. Marlisa.
The 407.
The 407.
I'll catch you there today.
4 o'clock. That's the place to be on Fox 35. And thank you for joining us on Florida Live today. We are out of time, but I will give you this live look at downtown Orlando. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday.